Tonight we're diving into something Hollywood has been lying to you about for decades: medieval battles. You've probably seen the movies. Brave knights charging across pristine fields, swords clashing in choreographed duels, heroes cutting through enemies like wheat, emerging with maybe one photogenic cut on their cheekbone. Well, the reality of medieval warfare was far from that. It was horrifying, chaotic, and so utterly disgusting that if you were transported back to a real battlefield, you'd likely die of shock before anyone even stabbed you. And tonight, we're going to walk through exactly what a real medieval battle was like. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from all around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's start at the very beginning, how you ended up in this nightmare. Spoiler alert, you probably didn't sign up for this. In medieval times, most soldiers weren't volunteers, and they weren't professional warriors dreaming of glory. No, most of them were farmers, laborers, or craftsmen who got an unwelcome knock on their door one day. That knock? It was from the local lord's bailiff or sergeant, backed by armed men, delivering the news that congratulations, you've been drafted. This system was called feudal obligation, and if you were a peasant, which, statistically, you absolutely were, you owed military service to your lord. It didn't matter if you had crops to harvest, children to feed, or zero interest in having your intestines decorating some French field. Your lord needed bodies for his army, and you were a body. Simple math. Every able-bodied man between the ages of 16 and 60 owed military service, though in practice, they usually rounded it to men between 18 and 45, though the age limits were often adjusted depending on the state of the war. The bailiff would show up in your village with a list of names. Your name was on that list, and you had 3 days to report with whatever weapon you could muster. No time for excuses. Failed to show up? Desertion. And the penalty for desertion? At minimum, you lost your land, and your family would become destitute. At worst, hanging. Or worse still, they'd hang you and then confiscate your property just to drive the point home. The fear was real. You might think, well, I'll just run away, hide in the woods, flee to another village where no one knows me. But good luck with that. Medieval society was tight-knit, and there was no such thing as anonymity. Everyone knew everyone, at least by reputation. You couldn't disappear into thin air, because anonymity didn't exist. And even if you did manage to flee, your family wouldn't be so lucky. They'd bear the brunt of your desertion. Your wife might lose the land, and your children could be sold into servitude to pay the fine for your desertion. Collective punishment was common in medieval law enforcement. If you ran, your entire family might pay the price. But the punishment for desertion wasn't the only thing that drove you to report for military service. The alternative was worse. If you didn't report, your family was condemned. So you packed what little you had, kissed your wife and kids goodbye, and showed up at the assembly point. You weren't alone. There were hundreds of other men there, all with the same look on their faces, fear poorly disguised as resignation. Some of them were your neighbors, others from villages you'd never seen before. You didn't know them. You'd be expected to fight alongside them, to trust them with your life, even though you were complete strangers. At the assembly point, the lucky ones were the professionals, career soldiers who'd been training since they could hold a sword. But these men were a minority, maybe 5 to 10% of any given army. The rest? Peasant levies, guys who had maybe held a spear once during some half-hearted village training exercise, which mostly involved drinking and hoping nobody noticed you weren't paying attention. Village military training was supposed to prepare you for the fight, but it was mostly a joke. The village might have had a couple of decent practice spears, but really, they were more likely to have broken equipment. The rest of the training time was spent standing around while the Lord's sergeant yelled at everyone. And when it was over, you'd go to the tavern and try to forget that someday, that pathetic excuse for preparation might be all that stood between you and a French pike. And now, the moment had arrived. So, here you are, standing among hundreds of men in the assembly field. You're not in a well-drilled army, but a ragtag collection of peasants, farmers, and laborers, thrown together and expected to fight like professionals. You glance around. Next to you is Thomas, a farmer from the next village over. He seems nice enough. On the other side stands a man with a nasty scar, someone who was just in jail for murder last week, now your comrade in arms. Behind you, a teenager, so young and terrified, you wonder if he'll even be able to hold a spear. At the front of your group is a grizzled veteran, 3 fingers missing, muttering to himself as if trying to prepare his mind for what's coming. "This is your army," he says under his breath. "This is who you're trusting with your life." Your stomach churns. This is the reality of medieval warfare. There's no glamour, no honor, just survival, if you're lucky. The gear you've brought with you is pathetic. Most of you didn't own weapons, you're armed with whatever you could find. A billhook, once used for cutting crops, now repurposed for cutting men. A woodsman's axe. A hammer from your workshop. Maybe, if you're lucky, an old sword your grandfather claimed he took off a dead Frenchman, though, honestly, it was probably bought from a traveling merchant who specialized in selling poor-quality weapons to gullible peasants. Spears are the most common weapon for levies, cheap to make and easy to use. But armor? Well, you're joking if you think you've got armor. Real armor, like mail or plate, costs more than you'd make in 5 years of farming. The best you can hope for is a thick wool tunic, and even that's a stretch. Most men wear their regular clothes, a linen shirt, maybe a wool tunic, and if they're lucky, a leather jerkin. Some even stuff their shirts with straw or rags for a little padding, but it's mostly wishful thinking. But here's the kicker, some men are wearing cooking pots on their heads. Not as a joke, not a makeshift helmet because of bad luck, but because it actually provides some protection. Archaeological evidence has shown that desperate men would tie metal pots to their skulls with leather straps to shield themselves from blows. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't even close to practical. But in that moment, a soup pot tied to your head was a better option than a cracked skull. The professional soldiers, the knights and men-at-arms, are a different breed. They have real armor, mail, plate, custom-fitted, well-maintained. Their war horses are bred for strength and aggression, cost more than a small village, and they know how to use them. But you've got nothing but a rusted spear and the clothes on your back. And the worst part is, you're not even guaranteed to survive long enough to fight. The odds are stacked against you. Now, as more men continue to arrive at the assembly point, the reality of your situation starts to sink in. The professional soldiers, those men who've trained for warfare their entire lives, look at each new arrival with contempt. They know most of you will be dead within a month. They've already written you off. The nobles, who've brought their own men, don't even look at you. They don't care. They'll use you as human shields, bodies to fill out the battle line, nothing more. Some of them might understand that you're just men doing your duty, but most see you as cattle, disposable, expendable. And then, as if things weren't bad enough, you learn that your army isn't even a cohesive force. The king, nobles, and bishops all bring their own retinues, each with different levels of training, equipment, and motivation. Unity of command? Well, that's mostly a fantasy. The reality is more like a bunch of men stuck together, all with different agendas and ideas of what they're fighting for. Your army isn't an organized, well-trained fighting machine. It's more of a collection of semi-trained mobs held together by fear of punishment. The first time you see the professionals is a wake-up call. You watch them, their gear polished, their horses trained. You can't help but feel small and inadequate by comparison. These men have been training for this their entire lives. They are born for battle. You, on the other hand, were born to till fields and feed a family. And now, here you are, shoved into a line, no idea how to stand, let alone how to fight. But it's too late to back out. The battle is coming, and there's no turning back. You're going to stand with these men who are your enemies 1 minute, your comrades the next, facing an uncertain death for a cause you barely understand. And the worst part? You're hungry. You haven't eaten properly in days. The king's army was supposed to supply provisions, but the logistics of medieval warfare were a nightmare. Supply wagons break down, food rots, and corrupt officials sell supplies and pocket the money. By the time anything reaches you, it's inadequate. You get a daily ration of bread, maybe a pound if you're lucky, and some weak ale. The bread is coarse, made from the cheapest grain, and often mixed with sawdust or ground peas just to make it stretch. Meat is rare, vegetables even rarer. But you're starving, and so you eat it. Anything to keep your strength up for what's coming next. What's coming next is a march to the battlefield. Now, here it comes, the long, grueling march toward the battlefield. Movies tend to gloss over this part, don't they? They skip right from the dramatic call to arms to the epic battle scene. But the march is where most men, like you, meet their fate. You're malnourished, tired, and already suffering from injuries before you even step foot on the battlefield. The horror is in the journey, not just the fight. You've been walking for days, maybe weeks, with nothing but your weapon and a bedroll slung over your shoulder. If you're lucky, you've managed to scrounge up a few pieces of stale bread and some dried meat, but you're already starting to feel weak. Every step is a struggle, and it's not just the exhaustion that's weighing on you. It's the gear. The heavy, awkward weight of your weapon, your bedroll, and whatever scraps of food you manage to bring along. It's more than you can handle, especially after weeks of marching on terrible roads. Speaking of roads, let's not forget about those medieval tracks. Roads back then weren't exactly the smooth, well-maintained highways we know today. The Romans might have built impressive stone roads centuries earlier, but those were long gone by the time you came around. The roads now are just dirt paths, rutted, uneven, and treacherous. When it's dry, they're full of rocks, and when it rains, well, it's a nightmare. Mud. Thick, suffocating mud that you'll get stuck in, making every step a battle of its own. You're walking through thick, ankle-deep sludge, trying not to lose a boot in the muck. And when you do, good luck getting it back. It's like the mud has a personal vendetta against your boots. The worst part of the march, though? The feet. Oh, the feet. You're already malnourished, your shoes are falling apart, and your feet, well, they're not in good shape to begin with. After a few days of walking in soggy, heavy boots, your feet are raw, blistered, and swelling. The leather of your shoes is cracking, the stitching coming undone. If you're lucky, you'll have a spare pair of socks. If you're not, well, you'll just have to make do with whatever rags you can find. Blisters are a constant companion, and after a few days of walking, those blisters will turn into open sores. The pain is constant. Your legs ache with every step, and your back is sore from carrying all your gear. Every time you step in that thick mud, your feet feel like they're being sucked into the earth, fighting to pull you under. And when you finally manage to get your foot free, your boots left behind, stuck in the mud, and you've got to decide, do you go back and get it, or keep moving? You know you can't afford to slow down. Every moment spent in the mud is another minute you're exposed. The enemy could strike at any moment, and if they do, you need to be able to fight. But if you leave your boot behind, you're walking barefoot, another death sentence waiting to happen. The worst part is the sheer length of it all. You might walk 15, 20 miles a day, but it doesn't feel like progress. The road is rough, the weather unpredictable, and the terrain unforgiving. You've already spent weeks getting to this point, but it feels like there's no end in sight. Your body is crying out for rest, but there's no time for that. You've got to keep moving. And what's worse, you're probably starving. The food rations you were given are already running out, and you can't even keep them down. The bread is stale, the ale barely drinkable. The body's burning through reserves, and there's nothing to replace them. It's a slow, miserable process that makes you wish for the comfort of home, your warm bed, your family, the fields you've been pulled away from. It feels like it's been years since you last saw them, even though it's only been weeks. The fatigue doesn't just affect your body, it's draining you mentally, too. You've heard the stories. Everyone's heard the stories. The older soldiers tell tales of the brutal marches, of men collapsing from exhaustion, from injuries, from sickness. The war itself may be brutal, but the march is where most of the men die, The wet clothes, the hunger, the exhaustion, the stress. The sickness that spreads like wildfire in the ranks. You start to think, is it worth it? What are we even fighting for? What's the point? But you know what the answer is. You're not here because you volunteered. You're here because you have no choice. Your Lord demanded it, and the penalty for not showing up is worse than what you're facing now. This is your life now. It's survival. It's fight or die. And the worst part? There's no glory in it. There's no honor. Just endless, soul-crushing fatigue. Eventually, you reach a point where it's not even about the battle anymore. It's about surviving this march. Every day feels like an eternity, but the end is still nowhere in sight. You just keep moving, keep walking, hoping that maybe, just maybe, you'll make it to the battlefield in one piece. You don't know if you'll survive the fight, but you know this march is already killing you, bit by bit. But finally, after what feels like an eternity, the army stops for the night. You're exhausted, starving, and your feet are beyond saving. You're desperate for rest, but all you can do is find a patch of ground and try to sleep. The night is cold, the ground hard, the mud seeping into your clothes, your body shaking with exhaustion. You know tomorrow's going to be another brutal day of walking, and the next day, and the next. But for now, you close your eyes and try to sleep. Try to forget that the battle, the real fight, is still ahead. The next morning, you wake up to the sound of a horn blasting through the air. It's a familiar noise by now. The military life has a rhythm, even if it's a brutal one. You'd barely slept. Your bones ache, your muscles are sore, and your stomach is gnawing at you for more food. The sky is still dark, but the army is already on the move. The supply wagons haven't made it through yet, and the few scraps you've been rationing won't last much longer. It's like everyone's moving on empty. But the real horror is ahead, and you can feel it in the air. You've already walked for days, your body practically giving out under the weight of exhaustion. The psychological toll has begun to sink in too. The waiting is always the worst part. It's easy to get lost in the physical struggle, the soreness, the hunger, the heat, or the cold. But the mental game? That's where it really messes with you. You've been walking for days, but still no sign of battle. Just endless miles, endless roads, endless exhaustion. You're still walking, still trudging along. The dirt roads have given way to fields. The occasional village offers a brief respite, but they're empty. People have fled, afraid of the marching armies. Some soldiers have stolen food, while others beg, their voices hoarse and desperate. It doesn't take long to realize that everyone's out for themselves. Your comrades, your neighbors, your fellow soldiers, they're just as exhausted as you are. You can see it in their eyes. Some are still trying to act tough, but it's all for show. Inside, they're all hoping for the same thing, the end of this miserable march. In a way, the march itself becomes a battle, only it's against fatigue, hunger, disease, and isolation. You can feel your body weakening day by day, your thoughts clouded by the constant thirst, the hunger gnawing at your insides. You've been reduced to survival mode. You can barely remember why you're even fighting. As you march on, you hear rumors of the battle to come. Whispers spread quickly in an army this size, and as much as you try to ignore them, they filter through your mind. You wonder if you're ready. If anyone is ready. The fear is starting to build now. You've never fought a real battle before, never faced an army of trained men. Sure, you've trained a little in your village, but those exercises with the village militia? They were a joke. You were a farmer. A craftsman. You didn't sign up for this. But there's no turning back. You've seen what happens to deserters. You've heard the stories, the ones who tried to run, only to be dragged back and punished. Some were hanged in front of the entire army as a reminder that nobody gets to escape this nightmare. It's easier to keep moving forward, even if every step feels like it's killing you. And as much as you try to bury the fear, it's there. It's in your gut. It's in your muscles that are screaming for rest but have to keep going. It's in the way your heart races as the hours drag on. Finally, the army reaches the encampment, and for a brief moment, you think you might finally be able to rest. But that's not what happens. there's no rest. There's more marching, more standing, more preparation. You're thrown into the chaos of camp life, where everything is a struggle, finding food, securing shelter, trying to get some sleep on the hard, damp ground. The smell of sweat, urine, and unwashed bodies hangs in the air, overwhelming your senses. You feel yourself sinking deeper into the grim reality of the situation, and you wonder, if this is the camp, what will the battlefield be like? You can't help but think of the men you've seen, some already mentally broken. The rumors of madness and despair run through the camp like wildfire. Some soldiers sit by themselves, their eyes vacant, their bodies trembling. It's clear that the march has broken them. You watch as men shake uncontrollably, the stress of the journey pushing them to the edge. Others are vomiting, the pressure of hunger and illness taking its toll. You wonder for a moment if you'll be able to hold on. But you know one thing, the battle is still coming. It's unavoidable. And just when you think you might get a break, there's a sudden announcement. Tomorrow, you march to the front. The commanders have given the orders. The battle is imminent. You've made it this far, exhausted, hungry, and sick, but now the true horror begins. The battle. But before you go, there's a final preparation. You check your weapon for the 100th time. Your spear is still sharp, your shield is intact, but it feels like it won't be enough. You know you're going into battle with nothing but the basics. A weapon that's just a repurposed farm tool, an armor that's barely more than a thick wool tunic. You've heard of knights and professional soldiers with armor that could withstand blows, but you? You're not a knight. You're a peasant. A body to be used in someone else's war. The fear is real now. It's settling deep in your chest. You can't stop thinking about what's to come. The screaming, the chaos, the smell of blood and sweat. The weight of the upcoming fight presses on you, but there's nothing you can do. You've been trained for this moment. Or at least, you're supposed to have been. The night is long, but sleep is impossible. Every time you close your eyes, you see the enemy's faces. You hear the clash of weapons in your mind. You can almost feel the sting of arrows, the sharp bite of a sword. The sounds of the camp fill your ears, men coughing, groaning, praying, and trying to hold it together. You wonder if you'll ever make it through the night. But morning comes, and the order is clear: form up, march, and fight. And the moment has arrived. The battle is waiting, and you're part of it. The sun barely peeks over the horizon as the horns blare, signaling the beginning of the end. You are herded out of the encampment, the sound of your boots slapping the mud deafening in the silence before the chaos. The men around you, weary, hungry, and fearful, march without words, the weight of the moment bearing down on them. Their faces are pale, eyes wide with terror. You're no different. The realization has set in. This isn't just some distant horror anymore. This is real. This is happening. The line begins to form, but it's not the neat, organized line of knights and veterans you imagined. No, it's a disorganized mass, a mixture of farmers, craftsmen, and a few mercenaries who are perhaps just as terrified as the rest of you. Some are muttering prayers under their breath, others are clutching their weapons as if the act of holding it might somehow protect them. You, too, grip your spear tighter, the wood rough in your hands, and you wonder, for the 1000th time, if you'll survive this. The field ahead of you is nothing like the clean, organized battlefields depicted in stories. There's mud, churned by the heavy feet of men, weapons, and horses. The air smells of blood and sweat, of fear and desperation. You can feel the tension in the air, a tight, suffocating pressure that makes it hard to breathe. You're no longer just one man. You're part of something much bigger, something that's about to explode into violence. There's a sound in the distance, something low and rumbling. You know it immediately. It's the enemy's war drums. They're coming. You're coming for them. The realization settles deep in your bones. It's terrifying, and yet, it's the only thing you can focus on. Everything else fades into the background. You don't notice the men around you. You don't hear the shouting orders. The only sound that matters now is the drums, the rhythm that matches your heartbeat. And then, there's a shout. It's not a command, but an order. It's primal, animalistic, a simple, Guttural sound that echoes across the line, one word. Advance. The line shifts, the movement a wave rippling forward, one man at a time. There's no stopping it now. You're moving forward. You're walking to your death. The ground underfoot becomes more unstable, thick with mud, trampled by the weight of so many soldiers. You can hear the desperate, frantic breathing of the men around you, the scrape of metal, the shuffle of shoes in the muck. Your hands are clammy, the weight of your armor unbearable. It's not much, just a thin wool tunic, leather straps that might protect you from a glancing blow, but not much else. There's no real protection here. Not like the knights with their shining plate armor. But what do you have to lose now? You've come this far. You're in the thick of it, and there's no turning back. The line pushes forward, but the terrain is against you. The march, which seemed endless, has only prepared you for this moment. The moment where the battlefield opens up in front of you, and you see them, the enemy soldiers. They're just as terrified as you. It's hard to tell from the distance, but there's something in their movements that suggests they, too, are on the edge. It's not courage you see in their eyes. It's fear. It's desperation. They're just as human as you are, and in a moment, that might be your only comfort. The first arrow comes before you can even register the order to charge. It flies through the air, a dark shape cutting the sky. The sound is familiar now, whistling, then the thud of an arrow hitting a shield. But the arrows keep coming, relentless, tearing into the formation. Men drop, clutching at their wounds, others stumble back. Some don't even get a chance to scream. You feel your heart rate quicken, your body bracing for the inevitable impact. It's a strange thing, this feeling. Fear and adrenaline mix, a heady cocktail that makes your chest tighten. "Don't break the line!" the sergeant shouts, his voice sharp and commanding, but it's hard to hear over the chaos. The men are stumbling, shoving, trying to stay in formation, but it's hard. You feel it too, the urge to flee, to run. But you can't. You've been trained to fight, even if that training is more a suggestion than a reality. You hear another shout, louder now, coming from the front. "Form ranks!" It's an order, but it's no use. The line has already been broken. The arrows have done their damage, and now, it's time to meet the enemy. You hear the clash of metal, the sickening sound of blades meeting flesh, the groans of men falling to the ground. And then, the cavalry arrives. It's like something out of a nightmare, a blur of hooves and armor, charging into the fray. You barely have time to react. The ground shakes with the impact of their charge, and you feel yourself being pushed back. There's no time to think. Your body moves on instinct, your spear raised in defense, but the weight of the enemy's charge is too much. You hear the sound of hooves, the crack of bones as knights trample over men like so much cattle. For a moment, you're caught in the chaos, your vision a blur of movement. You're in the middle of a massive, writhing mass of bodies. The sound is deafening, the screams, the clang of weapons, the shouts of commanders trying to restore order. You swing your spear, but there's no room to maneuver. The weight of the battle presses in on you, and you wonder, for a brief moment, if this is how it ends. It's too easy to become a part of the chaos, to lose yourself in the madness. You feel your body being shoved, pressed against the weight of your fellow soldiers, and you know that at any moment, you could be crushed beneath the weight of it all. You're fighting for survival now. It's not about honor or glory. It's about making it through this moment, whatever it takes. The battle rages on, but you're starting to lose track of time. It's like a fever dream, the heat of battle clouding your thoughts. The pain, the fear, the noise, it all melds into one overwhelming sensation. You keep moving, fighting, even as your body begs for respite. You're not sure how much longer you can keep going, but you know you have to. You have no choice now. The battle stretches on. Your legs are numb, your feet are raw and bleeding from hours of standing, stumbling, and being pressed into the dirt. The air is thick with the stench of sweat, blood, and fear, the sounds of men dying, the clang of swords and shields, the cries of animals, and the steady thud of hooves. The field has become a nightmare, a sprawling mass of bodies, mud, and desperation. You don't know how much time has passed since you first engaged. Hours? Days? It's hard to say when you're lost in this chaotic, endless moment. You've lost track of the enemy, of your own comrades. Everyone is just a blur now, familiar faces, unfamiliar faces, all of them just bodies, fighting to survive. You fight beside them, but not for them. You fight for yourself. Every swing of your weapon, every step you take is guided by nothing but instinct. Your spear feels heavier with every thrust, your arms aching, your mind foggy from the sheer exhaustion. You wonder how many have already fallen, how many bodies lie beneath the churned-up mud and blood. You're aware of the bodies falling around you. Some are cut down in an instant, others take longer. The groans and screams mix with the pounding of the war drums, a constant reminder that you're in the middle of something that's beyond your control. The men around you aren't just your comrades in arms anymore. They're a wall of desperation, a mass of humanity clinging to life. Some of them are desperate, eyes wide with fear, others are completely still, as if the fight has already drained them of everything. The chaos is overwhelming, suffocating. It's like drowning, but you're still alive, still fighting, still moving. Then there's a shift, a change. You feel it in the air, in the movement of the men around you. There's a hesitation, a slowing of the assault. You glance around, trying to understand what's happening. The line has broken. The enemy's morale is cracking. You see it first in their eyes. They're faltering. They're looking around, unsure, searching for an escape, for any sign of hope. The sound of their war cries has lost its edge, replaced with something else. It's the sound of fear. Their formation starts to waver. The weight of the battle is too much for them. You can feel it. You can taste it. Victory is in sight. But victory isn't like it's portrayed in the songs and stories. It's not a clean-cut triumph, a glorious moment of shining knights charging into the enemy's heart. No, this victory is a mess. It's raw. It's ugly. It's not about honor. It's about survival. You've lost so much already. You've seen so much destruction. And still, it doesn't end. The battle continues, but the tides are shifting. The line begins to crumble in front of you, enemy soldiers looking for any escape, any chance to break free. And then it happens. The first of them turns and runs. He's not the only one. One by one, the enemy soldiers start to flee, their courage shattered, their bodies no longer willing to endure. The pressure shifts. It's not a retreat. It's a rout. The enemy runs, and the chase begins. The cavalry, the knights you've been watching from the flanks, they're moving now, their war horses kicking up mud as they charge after the retreating enemy. The sound is deafening, the pounding of hooves like thunder, a final blow to the crumbling morale of the enemy. The knights don't hesitate. They don't slow. They're trained for this, and this is where they come alive. The enemy who was once so proud, so sure of their place on the battlefield, are now just men running for their lives. It's a slaughter. And you're part of it. You, the peasant soldier who never asked for any of this, are now part of the hounding pack, chasing down men who were once your enemy but are now just a blur of desperate movement. You wonder for a moment if you should join the chase. Some of the men around you are running. It's easy to follow them, to give in to the surge of adrenaline, to let the terror guide your steps. But something holds you back. It's the same something that's been with you since the moment you were dragged into this. It's the realization that you don't know what's waiting for you when this ends. The battle may be won, but the war is far from over for you. You keep moving forward. You don't run. You stay in formation, still clutching your spear, still unsure of what will come next. You're exhausted, but there's no time to rest. You can hear the cries of the enemy, the desperate pleas for mercy, but there's no mercy here. Not anymore. The retreat continues. The cavalry is cutting down the fleeing soldiers, the sound of lances piercing flesh ringing out across the field. You can feel the energy of the pursuit, the momentum carrying you forward. The tension in your chest, the weight of the battle, the noise, it all seems to blur together as you push on. But the enemy's formation is breaking. The weight of their collapse is palpable. They're scattering, and as they do, the battlefield begins to take on a new rhythm. The cries of the wounded, the sound of hooves, the thud of weapons, it all blends together into a terrible symphony. And for a moment, you feel the weight of it all. Victory is a strange thing. It's not a clear win. It's not the shining moment you imagine. It's the slow, agonizing realization that you've survived. And that survival comes at a cost. You've seen enough, fought enough, to know that this won't be the last battle. This war, this struggle, it's not over yet. Not for you. Not for anyone. But for now you can rest. For now you've made it through. The battle is over, but the war is far from won. And somewhere, in the midst of the chaos, you find yourself wondering just how many more times you'll have to live through this nightmare. The sounds of battle still echo in your ears, even as the field starts to calm, but there's no comfort in the silence that follows. The aftermath of the clash is a scene of carnage, a battlefield littered with the fallen, the wounded, and the dying. The earth is soaked with blood, mud, and bodies, their twisted forms marking the extent of the horror that unfolded just hours ago. The fog of war hangs thick, the air heavy with the smell of sweat, iron, and death. You stand amidst the wreckage of it all, your body aching, your mind numb, trying to process what's just happened. The chaos is over, but the real weight of it is only just sinking in. The dead, the ones who didn't make it, lie sprawled across the battlefield, their lifeless faces staring up at the sky, some still twitching in their final moments, their screams now just a memory. And then, the real work begins. You watch as the soldiers, the ones who were once your comrades, move across the field. Some are still alive, though barely, dragging themselves through the muck, trying to stay upright. They're as tired as you, just as broken. But they're also hardened. They've lived through this before. For them, the fight isn't over. It's never really over. In the distance, you can see the commanders, the knights, and the mercenaries, those who have the strength to stand tall and give orders, while the rest of you, the peasant soldiers, are left to pick through the mess. You know that the battle was only the beginning. The carnage, the slaughter, it's all part of the game they play, the one you never asked to be a part of. The nobles, the ones with the shiny armor, don't waste time. They're moving swiftly, almost impervious to the suffering around them. The victorious knights don't need to deal with the cleanup. That's your job. You, the ones who fought in the front lines, who have seen the worst of it, are left to face the consequences. And yet, even amidst the tragedy, there's a strange sense of camaraderie, a feeling of shared survival that links you to the men who were once strangers, but who now stand beside you, battered and bruised, but still alive. Your bond is a quiet one, formed in the fires of battle, forged by the horrors you've all endured together. It's not friendship, not quite. But it's something. The sun is setting, casting a dim glow over the battlefield, and it's in this light that you begin the grim task of sorting through the dead. Some soldiers drag the bodies of their fallen comrades to the edges of the field, gathering them for burial. Others are too tired, too drained to care. They stumble away from the carnage, trying to find shelter, trying to escape the reality of what they've just witnessed. You stand among them, looking down at the men who didn't make it. Some of them you recognize. Others are strangers. But they all share the same fate, those who fought and died for a cause they never understood. They are the true cost of war, the forgotten ones, the ones whose names won't be etched into the history books, whose bodies will rot in the mud, their families never knowing what happened to them. But then, you hear the sound of hooves again. The knights, the lords, they've returned. Their horses trample over the bodies of the dead, their boots kicking up the dirt. They don't stop. They don't look. They just keep moving, as if the slaughter means nothing to them. For them, it's just another day in the life. They don't have to carry the weight of the dead, the burden of the fallen. That's for you to bear. The camp is being set up now, and as night falls, you can see the difference between the camps of the nobles and your own. They have tents, food, comfort. You, on the other hand, sleep on the hard ground, your only shelter the thin blanket that barely keeps the cold away. But at least you're alive. At least you've made it this far. And then, as the final preparations are made, and the last of the wounded are tended to, you're reminded of one crucial truth: the real battle isn't over. It's not just the fighting that takes its toll. It's the aftermath. The journey back home, if you even have a home to return to. The memories of what you've seen and done, the weight of the men you've killed and the friends you've lost, those will haunt you forever. The war may be won, but it's the cost of survival that lingers. And for you, and so many others, this is only the beginning. The battle may be over, but the scars it leaves will never heal. As the days pass, the reality of what you've been through begins to sink in deeper. The battle is a blur now, just a haze of violence and noise that fades into the back of your mind. What remains, however, is the weight of survival, the knowledge that you've made it through something that most would have died in, but at what cost? The next few days in camp are filled with the aftermath of the battle, cleaning up, preparing for the long journey back, and trying to forget what happened. The bodies are collected, stripped of anything of value, and piled high for burial. There's no honor in this. No ceremony. Just the grim reality of what happens to the dead. They are forgotten as soon as they're buried, their names lost in the wind, as if they never existed at all. You, however, remain. The survivors always do. And in this place of loss and exhaustion, something strange begins to take root inside you, a kind of numbness. It's as if your body and mind have disconnected, unable to comprehend the horror that's unfolded. You're here, but part of you is already somewhere else, far away, trying to escape. The weather is starting to turn cold now, as autumn settles in. The dampness of the battlefield is starting to seep into your bones. But there's no time to rest, no time to process everything. The army must move. The order comes, and you find yourself on the road again, marching. You're not even sure where you're going anymore. The mission is over. The fighting is done. But you're still here, moving forward, the weight of your experience hanging on your shoulders like a heavy cloak. You march alongside men who are just as tired as you, men who, like you, are looking for an escape from what they've seen. Some are silent, lost in their thoughts. Others talk quietly to each other, but their words are empty, just a way to pass the time, a way to avoid thinking about the things they've witnessed. No one speaks of the battle anymore. It's done. It's in the past. But you can't escape it. It's in your mind, in your nightmares, in every moment of silence. The march is grueling. Every step feels like a punishment. The road is long, and the terrain is unforgiving. The rains have made the paths even worse, turning them into rivers of mud that suck at your boots. The men around you are exhausted, their faces gaunt, their spirits broken. Many are already injured, their wounds having been treated with little more than bandages and prayers. Some can barely keep up, but there's no choice. The army marches on, and you march with it. Your body aches with every step. Your feet are raw, your clothes are worn thin, and your stomach is empty. The food rations are barely enough to keep you going, but it's all you have. The bread is stale, the meat is tough, and the water is contaminated, but it's better than nothing. You start to wonder, as you walk along with the others, how much further you can go. How much more can you take? The endless march, the never-ending days of trudging through the mud, the cold, the hunger, the exhaustion, it's all wearing on you. And still, you keep walking. Because what else can you do? The worst part of this journey, though, isn't the physical toll. It's the mental one. You're trapped in your own head, haunted by the faces of the dead, by the screams, by the blood, by the weight of the decisions you've had to make. You didn't choose this. You didn't ask for it. But here you are. And the worst part is that you know you'll carry this with you forever. Even if you survive this journey, even if you make it back home, you'll never be the same. The war doesn't end when the battle's over. It follows you, always. As the days pass, the mood grows darker. The men who are left are too tired to fight, too broken to care. The noble lords ride ahead, far from the misery, while you and the others are left to suffer. No one cares about you. You are just a body, a pawn in a game that doesn't care if you live or die. You fight because you have to, because there's no choice. But in your heart you know the truth, this war, this life, it's not worth it. You begin to wonder what the point is. What have you fought for? A piece of land? A title? A piece of gold? None of it matters. It never did. You've seen enough to know that all of this, every battle, every death, every sacrifice, is for nothing. The rich get richer, the poor die, and the world keeps turning. There is no glory in war. No honor. Just pain, just suffering, just the slow grind of survival. And as you march forward, your mind begins to slow, your thoughts becoming more and more disjointed. You're tired. So tired. And yet there's no rest. The road ahead stretches on, and you know there's no end to it. The weight of it all is unbearable, and still, you keep walking. Because what else can you do? Days blur into one another as you march, your steps mechanical, driven by sheer survival instinct. The land around you is barren, the trees skeletal reminders of what's been lost to the ravages of war. The air smells of wet earth, stale bread, and the pungent scent of men who haven't bathed in weeks. Every day feels like the last, each step a battle you're too tired to fight. You can feel your body deteriorating, each muscle aching with every movement. Your feet, raw from the endless march, seem to scream with each step, but you push through it. There's no other choice. The rations are gone, and the food you've been given is little more than scraps. But the hunger doesn't bother you anymore. It's become a dull, constant ache in the background, a part of the war you've learned to live with. Your comrades are in the same state. Some walk in silence, others talk softly to each other, but their words are hollow, just trying to make sense of the madness they've found themselves in. Every soldier here is a man shaped by hardship, by battle, by the weight of something they never asked for. Some are barely holding on, their eyes sunken and lifeless. Others, like you, are surviving, but not truly living. As you march, you catch a glimpse of the horizon, a faint outline of a distant hill. There's something about it that stirs you, a faint glimmer of hope, something you haven't felt in a long time. You don't know if it's the exhaustion playing tricks on your mind, but you begin to wonder, is there an end to this? Will this nightmare ever be over? But just as quickly as the thought crosses your mind, you hear the sound of horses. The nobles, the lords, are riding ahead, their horses' hooves beating the ground with a rhythm you can never hope to match. They're moving fast, leaving you behind in the dust. They have their own priorities, their own destinations. You're just a part of the machine, a cog in a wheel that doesn't care about you or the other men trudging behind. It stings, that knowledge, that you are nothing more than a tool for someone else's ambitions. You want to scream, but the sound is stuck in your throat, suffocated by the weight of the truth. This was never about honor. This was never about glory. It was about power, land, and bloodshed. And in the end, it's you, the common soldier, who suffers the most. Night falls, and you find yourself setting up camp with the others. The fire crackles as you huddle around it, the warmth offering little comfort against the cold that seeps into your bones. The silence around you is broken only by the occasional cough or groan of a wounded soldier. You wonder, as you sit there in the dark, how many of these men will make it through the night? How many will wake up to march again tomorrow, their bodies just a little more broken, their spirits just a little more shattered? The thought of home crosses your mind. You don't know what you'll return to. Your family, your land, do they even remember you? Or have they moved on without you? The idea that they might be better off without you, that your absence hasn't caused them as much pain as your presence, makes your chest tighten. The firelight flickers, casting long shadows across the camp. You stare into the flames, lost in thought, when a voice pulls you back to reality. It's one of your comrades, his face gaunt, his voice barely above a whisper. "Do you think it'll ever end?" he asks, his eyes haunted. You don't answer right away. What can you say? You don't know. You can only keep moving, keep surviving. But the truth is, you've seen enough to know that war doesn't end when the fighting stops. It lingers long after the last sword is sheathed, long after the banners are taken down. It lives in the bodies, in the minds, in the souls of those who survive. And for those who survive, the battle never really ends. The man's question hangs in the air, unanswered. You turn your gaze back to the fire, watching the flames dance, and try to imagine a world beyond this. Beyond the endless marches, the bloodshed, the pain. A world where you can lay down your weapon, rest your weary body, and find peace. But deep down, you know that peace is something you'll never find. Not after everything you've seen. Not after everything you've done. The fire crackles one last time before it dies down, leaving only the sound of the wind and the weight of silence. The morning comes too soon, as it always does. You wake to the dull ache of your muscles, the cold biting at your bones, and the hollow feeling of hunger in your stomach. The camp is still, quiet except for the soft shuffle of feet as soldiers prepare for another grueling day. The sky is overcast, a gray expanse above you, mirroring the weight in your chest. It's not even dawn yet, and already, you're gearing up for the march. The same old routine. The same dread in your gut. You look around at the men beside you, strangers, some of them. You've been walking together for what feels like an eternity, but you don't know them. Not really. You're all just bodies in the same army, driven by fear, by the threat of punishment, by the same insatiable need to survive. There's no real camaraderie here, just a shared understanding that no one is really safe. Some men go through the motions, talking about things they can't remember or pretending to laugh at jokes that don't make sense. Others stay silent, their eyes dull, their faces hollow. It's all an act. You drag your feet, struggling to get moving, when the sharp command of a sergeant cuts through the air. "Form up!" He barks the order, and like clockwork, the men start to shuffle into their positions. No one talks. There's nothing to say anymore. You just follow the line, your eyes straight ahead, your thoughts somewhere far away. The march begins, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you look around at the landscape. The once vibrant fields are now desolate, scarred by war. The earth is stained with the memories of battles past, and you can feel it beneath your feet, the weight of everything that's happened. The landscape is a reflection of your soul, worn, empty, and scarred by the constant violence. Your mind drifts to the battles ahead. The fear is always present, creeping up your spine with every step you take. What will the next one be like? Will you survive? You try not to think about it. It's easier not to. But the question gnaws at you, always in the back of your mind, lurking like a shadow waiting to strike. Hours pass, and the march drags on. You start to lose track of time. Your body is a machine, moving by instinct more than anything else. You've lost track of how many days you've been walking like this. Days turn into weeks, and the only thing that matters is getting to the next destination, the next battle, the next chance to prove that you're still alive. At some point, you begin to feel the tension shift in the air. The men around you are still marching, but there's a noticeable unease in the air, a murmur that spreads through the ranks. You catch snippets of conversation, rumors of a great battle ahead, of the enemy gathering their forces. Some men try to reassure each other, but it's clear that the anxiety is growing. A thought creeps into your mind: are we marching to our deaths? The thought is so dark, so final, that you quickly push it away. But it lingers like a chill that won't leave your bones. You've seen men break in the face of fear, seen them run, seen them fall apart. You won't let that happen to you. You have no choice. As the day wears on, you start to notice something strange. The further you march, the more distant the sounds of your comrades seem. The once steady rhythm of footsteps is now broken, interrupted by the sound of rustling, the occasional cough, the nervous mutterings of men trying to calm their fear. You look around again, noticing the exhaustion etched into every face. The bodies that seemed so full of life at the start of the journey are now frail, tired, and empty. The energy of the march is fading, replaced by something darker, something more primal. Survival. And then, as if in answer to that silent question, you see it. In the distance, just beyond the next hill, a flash of light. It's the glint of armor, of men lining up, preparing for something. The battle. You don't know how long it's been since the last one, but the reality of it is here now, closer than you ever thought possible. Your heart races, your legs slow, and for a moment you feel yourself faltering. But there's no time to stop, no time to think about it. The sergeant's sharp voice rings out, commanding you forward. The line moves again, and the reality hits. You're walking into the maw of war, and there's no turning back. No escape. The only thing you can do is keep moving. The fear rises again, thick and suffocating. It presses on your chest, makes it hard to breathe. But you swallow it down. You've been through worse. You've survived this long, and you can keep going. The enemy awaits. The battle line is drawn. And the only thing you can do is fight. The battle line is drawn now, and as the order to advance is shouted, your heart pounds in your chest like a drum. You know what's coming, and it's nothing like the glorious, nightly charges you've heard about in songs. This is chaos, a mindless thrash of bodies, blood, and desperation. The moment you step forward, your boots sink into the mud, a grim reminder of how much this land has suffered. The men around you look just as terrified as you feel. There are no heroes here, only survivors. You take one more breath, trying to steady your shaking hands, the weapon in your grip feeling heavier with every step. You glance at the men beside you, strangers from different villages and even distant lands. Some of them are mumbling prayers, others with eyes wide in fear, hands shaking as they clutch their weapons. It's hard to tell whether they're trembling from fear or from the cold, but at this moment, it doesn't matter. You march forward, toward the enemy line. The tension in the air is thick enough to slice through with a sword. Every breath feels ragged, every step weighted with the possibility of death. It's not bravery pushing you onward, it's the instinct to survive, to keep moving, to hope that maybe, just maybe, you'll make it through the next few moments. And then, just like that, the first volley of arrows hits. The hiss of their flight is a sound you'll never forget, and the sheer speed at which they come is enough to make your heart skip a beat. The first few strikes land on men beside you, their screams echoing as they drop to the ground. The sight of a soldier crumpling, an arrow jutting from his chest, makes you stumble, but you can't stop. You dare not stop. You force your legs to keep moving, even as fear takes hold of your chest. The clash of shields, the screams of dying men, and the sound of horses charging are all around you. The battlefield is a blur, a wall of bodies and weapons, moving in a frenzy that makes everything seem unreal. There's no strategy here, no grand plan. It's just survival. The noise is deafening, a storm of chaos. The air is thick with dust, sweat, and blood. You push through it, not caring whether you're fighting for the king or for a cause you barely understand. You just know you're fighting to live. In the distance, you see the knights charging forward, their horses smashing into the enemy like battering rams. They seem to glide effortlessly through the chaos, their armor gleaming in the sun. You envy them. They have the training, the skill, the protection. You're just a peasant, armed with nothing but a rusty spear and a life of back-breaking labor. You don't belong here, and yet you're forced to fight or die. You push forward, gripping your spear, praying that you don't become one of the casualties. As the enemy line closes in, the full reality of the battle crashes down on you. It's not the heroic fight you imagined, it's a brutal, relentless crush of men pushing, shoving, stabbing. There's no room to move, no space to breathe. You're caught in a sea of humanity, your body pressed against others, the weight of it all threatening to crush you. You're stuck, unable to advance, unable to retreat. The fighting is savage. You thrust your spear forward, but it feels clumsy, awkward. The men in front of you don't even seem to notice as they continue to strike and parry, pushing through the melee with practiced precision. But not you. You're just trying to survive. You swing your spear desperately, trying to make some room, to push forward, to find a gap in the enemy line. Suddenly, a blow lands. You feel it before you see it, a sharp, searing pain in your side as a sword slices through your makeshift armor. The world spins, and for a moment, you're not sure if you're alive or dead. You stumble, your breath coming in ragged gasps, your body screaming with pain, but you keep going. The men around you keep moving, their faces grim and focused, as though they've accepted this is the way it will be. The battlefield is nothing like the romanticized versions you've heard about. There are no grand duels, no knights in shining armor. There is only chaos. It's a wild, unrelenting fight to the death, and in this moment, there's nothing but you and the enemy. The world narrows down to this one horrific moment. Your spear gets caught in someone's armor, and you yank it free, the struggle made even harder by the pain in your side. You don't even know where the injury came from. But it's there, a burning reminder that the cost of survival is high. Blood, dirt, and sweat coat your face. You try to push through, but your legs feel like lead, and every movement is a struggle. There's no time to think, no time to feel sorry for yourself. And then, out of nowhere, you hear a shout, a command that cuts through the noise of battle. Retreat! The word is a lifeline, a shred of hope amidst the madness. The enemy's morale is faltering, and in that moment, you realize that this battle might be over. But the damage has been done. You're alive, but you've seen too much. You've witnessed the raw brutality of war, the death and destruction, the hopelessness. There's no glory in this, no honor. Only the staggering toll it takes on the men who are forced to fight, to sacrifice everything for a cause that may not even be theirs. As you retreat, your body aches with every step. Your mind is a haze, the battle's noise still ringing in your ears. You look around at the faces of the men around you, some relieved, others just as lost as you. They're all the same. You're all the same. You've survived the fight, but the real battle is just beginning. The wounds, the memories, the cost of what you've just endured, it will follow you long after the battle is over. The question now is whether you can ever truly escape it. The battlefield is silent now, but the air is thick with the aftermath. The once mighty roar of combat has given way to an eerie stillness. You can hear the groans of the wounded, the desperate cries of men lying on the ground, broken and battered, some too far gone to even move. The stench of death hangs in the air, mingling with the blood-soaked earth beneath your feet. You've survived the worst of it, but there's no sense of triumph in your heart. The victory, if it can be called that, feels hollow, like a dream you can't quite shake off. You're not sure what's worse, the physical wounds or the emotional toll this battle has taken. Either way, you feel the weight of it all pressing down on you. You've seen men fight for their lives, only to lose them in the most brutal and senseless ways. You've witnessed the ugly truth of war. As the retreating army moves back to camp, you notice the lack of celebration, the absence of the usual hero's welcome. There's no clinking of swords, no speeches of honor. It's as though everyone has already moved on, because they know that the real fight, the real horror, is just beginning. The battle for survival doesn't end when the fighting stops. Your legs feel like they're made of stone as you make your way through the camp. The soldiers around you look as dazed and disoriented as you feel. You glance over at one of your comrades, a man from your village. His eyes are glazed over, his face pale. He's not saying anything, but you can see the fear in his eyes. It's the same fear you've been carrying since the moment you were conscripted, the fear that has only deepened after everything you've seen. You pass by the wounded, the screams and cries echoing in your mind. There's no relief for them, not here, not now. Medieval medicine is a cruel joke. The wounded will lie there, their suffering extending into a slow, agonizing death, because there's no one to help them. If you're lucky, a surgeon will show up eventually, but the likelihood of surviving without proper care is slim. As you make your way toward the designated area to rest, the reality of what's just happened sets in. The battle may be over, but the damage, both physical and mental, lingers. You try to find comfort in the small things, the quiet of the night, the faint scent of home that seems so distant now. But it's hard to feel any sense of peace when your body aches, when your mind won't let go of the images from the battlefield. You close your eyes, but the memories of men falling, of screams and blood, are right there, haunting you in the darkness. And then there's the smell. The camp smells of rot, sweat, and death. It's overwhelming. You can't escape it. It sticks to your clothes, your skin. You wonder if it'll ever wash off, if you'll ever be able to escape the stench of what you've just witnessed. You try to bury your head in the rough blanket you've been given, but even that doesn't offer any comfort. You can hear the murmurs of the men around you, the sounds of those still reeling from the battle. Some are talking, others are crying, some are just silent, lost in their own thoughts. Sleep comes in fits and starts. It's not the peaceful rest you desperately crave, but a restless dozing, filled with dreams of the battlefield. You wake with a start, heart pounding, breath short, only to realize it was just another nightmare, just another moment when your mind tried to process what you've seen. But the images won't go away. They won't fade. In the morning, you wake to a new reality. The battlefield, the camp, the people, it's all the same. The sun rises, but there's no sense of renewal, no sense of hope. There's no time for reflection, no time to heal. The army is already packing up, getting ready for the next stage. The campaign isn't over. The war is still ongoing. And you, whether you're ready or not, are a part of it. You're expected to keep moving forward. You're expected to march, to fight, to survive. There's no room for weakness, no room for doubt. But deep down, you know that's not true. There is weakness. There is doubt. There's fear, and there's pain. And there's no one here who can fix it, no one who can take it all away. As the men around you start to move, gathering their weapons, their belongings, there's a sense of inevitability in the air. The battle might be over, but the war continues. You don't know where you're going next, don't know what comes after this. All you know is that you're still alive, and that's something you can't take for granted. Not after everything you've seen. You check your weapon again, a reflex now, a way to distract yourself from the weight of your thoughts. It's not about the weapon. It's about the survival instinct. It's about being ready, even if you're not sure what you're getting ready for. The days ahead are uncertain, filled with more marches, more battles, more pain. But for now, there's nothing to do but keep moving. You trudge onward, your body sore, your mind numb, and you wonder if you'll ever be the same again. You wonder if anyone ever truly comes back from something like this, if it's even possible to recover from the things you've witnessed. But for now you walk. You move forward, one step at a time. You don't have a choice. The days blend into one another. You march, eat, sleep, if you can call it sleep, and repeat. Each day feels like the last, yet each moment seems to stretch into eternity. The air is thick with dust and the acrid stench of sweat, unwashed bodies, and the lingering smell of blood from the battle. The weight of your weapon feels heavier with each passing mile, and you wonder if you'll ever get used to the burden. The journey ahead is a blur. The army marches on through the countryside, making its way from one campaign to the next. The peasants are still with you, just as unprepared and untrained as the day you were conscripted. The veterans, those few who have lived through multiple campaigns, seem numb. You see them walking with a mechanical gait, their faces hollow, their eyes devoid of hope. The toll of war is visible in every movement, every step. The landscape changes, but not much. The muddy roads turn into fields of stubble, and then into dense, untamed forests where the trees tower above you like silent sentinels. You walk through them with little thought, moving through the landscape as if it's just one more obstacle to overcome. You hear the birds, the rustle of leaves, but it all feels distant, like it's happening to someone else, far removed from your own reality. Food is scarce, and when you do manage to find something to eat, it's not much better than the meager rations from the camp. Stale bread, watery beer, and a sliver of cheese or meat, if you're lucky. The army moves slowly, the weight of exhaustion pulling everyone down, but the fear of punishment for falling behind keeps you going. The soldiers are still a group of strangers, each one as scared as the last. Trust is a luxury, one that no one can afford. You find brief moments of solace, small snippets of time when the weight of everything seems to lessen. Maybe it's the soft rustle of leaves as the wind picks up or the fleeting beauty of the landscape as the sun sets. But those moments never last. They slip through your fingers like water. The gnawing fear, the ever-present hunger, the aches in your body, and the thoughts of home, all of it crowds in. You can't escape it. There is no escape. And yet there's still a part of you that clings to the hope that this will end, that you'll survive. You don't know why you keep hoping, why you keep moving forward when the odds are stacked against you. It feels like you're just going through the motions, like you're already dead inside, but somehow, your body keeps carrying you forward. Maybe it's the instinct to survive, the part of you that refuses to give in. Or maybe it's because you don't know what else to do. The nights are the worst. The silence of the camp, broken only by the groans of the wounded, the rustle of soldiers trying to get some sleep in the muck, the occasional screams of a man still gripped by the terrors of the battlefield. You close your eyes, But the images of the fight keep flashing behind your eyelids: sword strokes, screams, the crack of bones, the stench of blood. It's not the kind of sleep you need. It's the kind of sleep that leaves you more tired than when you started. And yet, the next morning, when the horns blow and the army stirs to life again, you find yourself moving with the others. The routine is the only thing keeping you grounded. The familiarity of it, marching, eating, sleeping, somehow makes the chaos of it all seem less unbearable. There's no time to think, no time to reflect. It's just one foot in front of the other, again and again. You notice some of the men around you have begun to change. Not physically, there's no time to heal from the wounds of the past battle, but mentally. They've become harder, more distant. It's as if they've accepted their fate, and now they're just going through the motions. Some of them have started to joke, but it's not the kind of joking that comes from a place of humor. It's hollow, born of a need to push down the fear and the grief that everyone carries with them. You've heard rumors of the next battle, of the strategies being laid out, of the hopes for victory. But the truth is, none of it matters. The noble lords, the kings, the generals, they're all far removed from the reality of what's happening here. To them, this is just another step in a long war, another victory or loss on the battlefield. To you, it's about survival. It's about getting through another day, another battle, without dying. The notion of glory seems like a distant fantasy, something you can't afford to think about. You're not here for honor. You're not here for wealth or fame. You're here because you have no choice, because you were pulled into this war without consent, without a say in the matter. You're here because survival is the only thing left to fight for. As the days drag on, you realize that the war isn't just something that happens on the battlefield. It's happening inside you too. You're fighting to hold on to the person you used to be, fighting to retain whatever humanity is left within you. It's a battle you don't talk about with anyone. It's a battle that no one else can see, but it's the one that matters most. You don't know if you're winning or losing, but you know you can't afford to stop fighting. The army keeps moving. You keep moving. And with every step, you wonder how long it will be before this journey, this war, finally takes its toll on you. The days blur together as the army presses on. Each morning, the sun rises reluctantly, casting a pale light over a landscape scarred by endless marches. You've grown accustomed to the daily rituals, the routines that no longer offer comfort but instead serve as a grim anchor. Every movement, every step, every moment feels like a repetition of the one before it, with only the distant echo of the battle to come hanging over you like a dark cloud. The roads are treacherous, the ruts deeper than they were yesterday. You find yourself stumbling more often now, your body weary from days of trudging through mud, rain, and sometimes the searing heat of the sun. The weight of your weapon feels heavier with every passing step, a reminder that you are no longer a man, but a tool. You are part of the army, a part of the machine that is marching relentlessly toward destruction. The peasants around you, the men who were conscripted like you, show signs of breaking. They have become shadows of the people they once were. The fear is still there, but it's mixed with something else now: resignation, acceptance. They've stopped looking for hope in the distance. They no longer dream of returning home. They dream only of surviving, of making it through this one battle, this one march, without losing everything. There are whispers at night, low conversations between the men, about the glory of war, about how some of them will return as heroes, celebrated by their villages. But the words fall flat. The men don't believe it. None of them do. The truth is far different. You've seen it. The terror in their eyes, the pain in their faces as they march, is not the mark of a hero. It is the mark of a man who knows what's coming and is trying to survive it. The food situation has worsened. The daily rations of bread are even more meager than before, and the stale beer, once a comfort, now only adds to the sense of emptiness inside you. Occasionally, there's a scrap of meat, a sliver of cheese, but it's always gone too quickly, leaving you hungry and irritable. But you learn to live with it. Hunger is the least of your concerns now. It's the march, the endless march that's starting to break your spirit, that gnaws at the edges of your resolve. As the days pass, the air grows heavier with the scent of decay. There are more deaths now, men who simply collapse from exhaustion, from the constant strain of marching with no respite. Sometimes they're left behind, their bodies nothing more than a faint memory on the side of the road. It's a cruel truth, you've become so accustomed to loss that you barely register the men who fall behind. You don't have the luxury of mourning them. You just keep walking. The veterans, the few who have been through countless campaigns, seem to have resigned themselves to their fate. They have seen it all. They walk with the same weary step, but there's a certain emptiness in their eyes. The fire that once burned within them has been extinguished, replaced by something colder, harder, survival. Some of them still speak of victory, of glory, but it's all detached, as if they're repeating lines from a play they've long since forgotten. You begin to understand. This war isn't about honor, it isn't about glory. It's about surviving the next moment, the next day. You're not fighting for anything noble. You're fighting because you were forced to, because you didn't have a choice. The idea of fighting for land or power seems so distant now, so irrelevant. All that matters is getting through the next battle, the next day. The weather is fickle. Some days the sun beats down relentlessly, turning the earth beneath your feet into a scorched wasteland, while other days, the rain comes down in sheets, soaking you through to the bone. The cold becomes unbearable at night, and the warmth of the day brings little comfort. You've lost track of the seasons. There is no spring or summer here, only the cold, the mud, and the relentless march forward. In the distance, you can see the outline of the enemy army. The tension in the air is palpable now. The rumors swirl about the battle, the numbers of men on either side, the strategies that will be employed. But none of it matters. You know what will happen. You will fight. You will survive, or you will die. There are no victories, only losses. The camp at night is a grim place. The men huddle together, too exhausted to speak. The fires burn low, casting shadows on the faces of soldiers who have long since lost their humanity. They are no longer men, they are survivors. And that's all they are, just like you. The night is filled with the sounds of coughing, the groans of the wounded, and the whispered prayers of men who know that tomorrow might be their last day alive. You lie awake, listening to the sounds around you, your body stiff and aching from the march, your mind racing with thoughts of what's to come. The fear is always there, lurking just beneath the surface, but there's no escaping it now. Tomorrow will bring what it will. You can only hope that when the time comes, you'll be ready. Dawn comes too quickly. The night has been long, filled with thoughts and fears you can't shake. The cold, the damp, and the tension have seeped into your bones, and as you rise with the others, the reality of the situation crashes down like the weight of the world. You feel it in the air, the finality of this day. This is it. There's no going back now. The orders come early, and you can hear the sound of drums, horns, and shouted commands in the distance. The formations begin to take shape, the slow-moving mass of men now breaking into something resembling an army. The air is heavy with anticipation, and the sounds around you are almost unbearable. Shuffling feet, muffled groans, the rustle of men adjusting their gear. You can see the fear in their eyes. You can hear it in their voices, shaking as they speak to one another, offering whispered words of reassurance that you all know are lies. Your weapon feels heavy in your hands. You check it for what feels like the 100th time. You try to adjust your grip, to make it feel right, but it's too heavy, too awkward. You're not sure if you're more afraid of the battle or the consequences of failing to fight in it. The air tastes bitter, like the dread you can't shake, like the fear that has taken root in the pit of your stomach. There's no time to think. The men are forming up, the ranks pushing and jostling as the officers shout orders. You move into position with the others, trying not to notice how many men are avoiding your gaze, how many are fidgeting with their weapons, how many are praying silently under their breath. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, the mud thick from the last few days of rain. You step carefully, making sure your footing is solid, but the terror is seizing your body. It's as if the earth itself is conspiring against you, trying to drag you down into the muck. Ahead, you see the enemy formations starting to take shape as well. The distance between you and them is shrinking, but in some ways, it feels like you're already there. The pounding of drums, the sound of commands shouted from the far side, and the whistling of the wind through the trees. It all feels surreal, as though the world has become a nightmare from which you can't wake up. You try to focus, but the noises, the sights, the smells, they're overwhelming. You're not the only one feeling this way. The men around you are shaking. Some have their eyes closed, perhaps trying to will themselves to disappear. Others are silently moving their hands through the air, trying to shake off the tension that has gripped their bodies. A few are already crying, unable to keep the fear at bay any longer. You glance around, trying to reassure yourself that you're not the only one in this hell, but the truth is, everyone around you is just as terrified as you are. The officers continue shouting orders, pushing the men into their places. The knights are beginning to move into position, their armor shining, their horses snorting impatiently beneath them. They look every bit the part of the warriors they are, their movements fluid and practiced. You can't help but resent them. They have been trained for this. They are here for glory, for honor. And you? You are just a body. A pawn in a game you never chose to play. As the line begins to form, you feel the weight of the moment settle over you. The tension is unbearable. There is no more time for doubt, for second thoughts. There's only what's ahead, only the battle. And you know, deep down, that even if you survive today, you will never be the same. There is no glory in war. Only survival. Only the primal instinct to fight, to kill, to stay alive. The command is given. The lines begin to move. You feel the push of men from behind you, the pressure from the front as you take your first steps into the chaos. The sounds of marching feet, of weapons clashing, of war cries, everything is suddenly happening at once. Your legs are moving mechanically now, your body propelled forward by the momentum of the men around you, but your mind is still spinning, unable to grasp the magnitude of what's happening. The enemy is so close now. You can see them, individual faces emerging from the mass, their expressions just as fearful as yours. They are just like you, men caught up in a conflict they don't understand, fighting for causes they can't even remember. You wonder for a moment if they too are praying, if they too are filled with the same fear. But there's no time for reflection now. There's no time for anything but the battle ahead. The first volley of arrows hits. The sound is deafening, like a storm overhead. You hear the whoosh of the arrows as they cut through the air, and then the sickening thud of the ones that find their marks. You feel a sharp pain in your shoulder. An arrow grazes you, tearing through your sleeve and slicing into your skin. You stumble, but you don't fall. You're still alive. The noise intensifies. The sound of clashing metal, of men screaming, of bodies hitting the ground fills your ears. You push forward, your weapon raised, but it's difficult to move. You're packed in tightly, surrounded by men just as desperate as you are. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, blood, and fear. It's hard to see through the chaos, to find any clarity in the madness. And then you're in it. The fight. The struggle for survival. Your spear feels like an extension of yourself, thrusting forward again and again, the pressure of the mass of bodies pushing you forward as you try to find purchase in the chaos. You can hear the cries of pain from every direction, the sickening sound of metal tearing through flesh, the frantic shouts of men trying to maintain some semblance of order amidst the madness. But there is no order here. There is only violence. There is only chaos. You are not a soldier. You are not a warrior. You are a man fighting for his life, just like the hundreds of others around you. And you will do whatever it takes to survive,